Hey there, this is Greg out here with MaryTimeGardening.com, and I'm in the kitchen, black t-shirt, risky business, intro slide. It is time to cook something, and what I'm going to do today is do something I've been talking about before, and that is I'm going to show you how I cook up these bolted spinach, because I imagine if my spinach is bolting here where it's cold, I imagine everybody's spinach is bolted. So you can still eat it when it's like this, even when you've got these flower heads. Like this. You can eat all that, that's fine. But it's not particularly good in a salad. You need to cook it because when the spinach bolts, it gets a little bit bitter. But the good thing about cooking it is that you can eat the whole thing. So I'm going to show you how to do that today so you can make the most use of what you've grown, right? If you've been watching me all this time, I think you're going to realize that what I'm all about is getting the most calorie value, nutrient value, nutrition value out of the time and energy you put into your land, into your soil, right? So here's how I prep these things up. I started doing this by myself. I wasn't going to make a video of it, but then I thought, well, maybe people want to see. So I got a bowl here with the spinach that's been unprocessed, and I got a little bit of processed spinach here. So all I really do is I take these stalks, right, and I just take off the sort of leafy parts, and I put the stalks on the right and the leafy parts on the left. And the reason I do that is because the stalk's still good, and you can throw that out if you want, but you can eat it. But they take a little bit more time. They take another few minutes to cook. This all depends on your taste, but I think I've got reasonably good taste. I think they just taste better if you cook them a little bit longer. They're a little more bitter, a little more tough. So why not, get the most out of it, the best flavor. Here's really good sized flour, right? And you got to think about it. The flour is from a nutrition point of view, right? The plant has put everything into the flour, and the flowers are the seeds. And think about what goes into a seed, right? I mean, it's the essence of life. So the seed has a lot of nutrition. You can eat the seeds, and they're perfectly fine to eat, and they're good for you. Not worth weeding out. Look, there's a piece of grass. Don't want that. So we're just weeding stuff out. I got my compost over here. Just throwing stuff in along the compost. Alright, so you get the idea. I'm going to fast forward this so you don't have to listen to me talk while I do all this work. Okay, so go. Okay, so that's all done. I just thought I'd show you an interesting thing here. Here's a piece of spinach that's got a few holes in it. You can see those, right? A little bit of insect damage and a little bit of yellowing, right? So it's not ideal. That yellow part's probably not the best tasting. But, if you've got insect damaged produce, especially from your own garden, don't sweat it, just eat it. Just wash it and eat it. Don't worry about it. All right? Okay, so this is all ready. Now all we got to do is wash everything, right? Give it a good bath. So stay with me a second while I do that. Okay, so we got a nice clean sink, and then got to wash the stems. We'll wash the stems and the greens separately because you're going to cook them separately. Wash the stems first because I'm going to eat the stems first. And when you wash the leaves, you probably want to let them sit in the water a little longer because the leaves are what tend to get bugs and stuff. So I'm sure most slugs are perfectly fine to eat, and if you want to eat slugs, go right ahead, but I don't want to. But anyway, if you put the leaves in the water and let them sit a bit with the slugs will come to the top. Especially if you put a little bit of salt in the water because they don't like that. And so those are clean. Use the same water for both. Just put it in the bowl. Actually, I want a smaller bowl of these. Put it in the bowl, and whatever remaining water, excess will just drip off of them and find its way to the bottom of the bowl. Dirt there, like that. Alright, so there's the stems. Stems are done. Now let's do the greens. Just throw those in. Throw that in. A little salt in there if you got it. You don't have to. As long as they're covered, that's good. This water is lukewarm. It's sort of like half hot, half cold. You can go with super cold water. I just find lukewarm feels nicer on my hands. But use, whatever you want to. I wouldn't use the water on hot because it actually probably leaches some of the nutrients to the vegetables, but cold, cool, or lukewarm is fine. Alright, so now we're going to process this stuff up, cut it all up, and I'm always amazed at people saying they don't have enough time to cook or it's hard or whatever. With practice, if you work on your knife skills, it doesn't take long to process a meal. I'm making a video right now, so it's going to take a bit of time, but this is the sort of thing I cook up for myself or for my family all the time. And I'm here by myself today. I got the day off, and everybody's not here. And what I'm whipping up here would take me 5 or 10 minutes to throw together. And that's time well spent because it's all really healthy stuff. So, but that's all about developing your knife skills. So you get a nice, what's this, 6-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch chef's knife. And it should be sharp, right? You need a decent cutting board, something with some serious weight. This is almost 2 inches thick. Put it on top of a cloth. Don't mess around. I'm always amazed. I go to people's houses and they got these flimsy, lousy cutting boards that are dancing all over the place while they're cutting. And most people get away with that because they don't know how to cut properly. But I mean, if you've got training, if you've got some skills, you chop fast and everything's sharp, so you can lose a finger if your cutting board's dancing all over the place. And how sharp should your knife be? If you take it to a hone like this, every time I use my knife, I hone them. I just go 1, 2, 3. You see people on TV going, that's ridiculous. It should be just slow. 1, 2, 3. Where you have the right angle and so on and so forth. And it should be, your knife should be sharp enough to take a piece of paper. You cut it like that, right? I had these knives professionally sharpened 3 years ago. And all I do is I hone them like I just showed you. 1, 2, 3, like that. It's basically 3 times the side whenever I use them, and they stay sharp. And that's as sharp as a cooking knife needs to be, and that's sharper than most people's cooking knives. Alright, so all this stuff's ready to process. I got the stems here, which I'm going to eat. And I'm just going to hold them all together like this. Cut them up. I'm going to cook these first. And I mean, my stems are tender. I've got good soil and constant moisture. Maybe yours are tough and woody. That's a soil quality issue. That's not a question of whether stems can be eaten. As long as they're, you can just tell I can just tell by feel. These are juicy and soft, and they're perfectly fine to eat. So why would I, why wouldn't I make use of them? All right, so they're ready to go. I'm in a bowl here. Nice, sort of watery, fresh smell here. There's my stems. Ready to go. All right, here's all my greens. Let's put that stuff aside for now. So you can always keep your cutting board nice and clean. That. All right, so I'm not going too crazy with these. I'm just gonna chop them into sort of 1 inch along the length of the stem. I use a lot of bowls when I cook. Just helps keep things organized, but they're not hard to wash because they're really not dirty. I mean, when you're done cooking, everything go away. When you're done cooking, everything can just basically just needs a quick rinse, right? I'm hoping I got all the ants and slugs and stuff out of this, but if I didn't, well, that's just more nutrition for me. They lose, I win. Most of those things won't hurt you. I would imagine that slugs are probably good for you, like shellfish, right? But anyway, it's not my ideal choice of a meal. Right, that's all of that. Okay, nice, serious looking flower there. All edible, all fine. I mean, and I'm cooking this today. I'm going to add a bit of spices and things like that. I just like it that way. And add some garlic scapes. I'm also cooking some of those. But you just add things to it as you like. If I had 3 eggs for breakfast, so I'm not going to add any protein to this because 3 eggs is probably a day's worth of protein anyway. But if you like that, do that. If you want to put some steak or chicken or bacon or whatever, just, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do or what not to do. Add things to it as you like. But this, the way I'm preparing it here, it's my opinion, and everybody's different. It's good enough to stand on its own from a flavor point of view. Right? So I'm just cleaning up a little bit as I go here, because that's the way you should always cook. Keep a clean kitchen. Alright, so we got our greens processed. I'll put those aside. Now I got all these nice garlic scapes, and I want this to be nice and garlicky, and this is probably, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've been away for about 11 days, and I just got back, and all my garlics, none of them had scapes when I left, and now they all do, so I have to pick them all and use them all right away. Because if you get any longer than this, you know, garlic scape, once they've turned once and gone back up, they need to be used. If they get a second turn and a third turn, they start to get hard and woody and they're not really good anymore. And most of mine have 2 turns right now, so I really let it go a little far, but I wasn't here, what can you do? So anyway, I'm going to use a lot of these today. I'm going to I just turned the pan on to heat it up, right? Don't want to stand around waiting, I can heat up while I'm doing this. And I got about a tablespoon of oil in there. If I used olive oil, use whatever you got. So here I got about, I don't know, let's do 5, let's do 6. 6 garlic scapes, perfectly fine. And I find this, you get the flour here, let me bring this in a bit closer. Got the flour here. I find that the flour, the end part of the flour is kind of tough. So I take that off. I just used maybe the first 2 inches of the flour. The rest of it, I mean, you can eat it, but for whatever reason, it's a bit tough, so I just get rid of it. All right, so I'll just snap those off. All right, so they're ready now. Is that 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. All right, so I've lined all the stem bottoms up together. This is the toughest part of the plant, so I'm going to cut those on a bit of an angle. And this is the part you're going to cook first too, so that it gets the most heat, so it can soften up the most. If you haven't eaten garlic scapes before, if you grow garlic and you're not eating your scapes, you're wasting. You're just wasting food. It takes nothing away from the plant to remove the scapes. In fact, there's many that argue it benefits the actual bulb by removing the scapes, so it doesn't put energy into the flour. And then I've also read it makes no difference whatsoever. So I've never done an experiment to see the difference. I try to use all my scapes because I like them. But the main point is that it doesn't, at the very least, it doesn't take anything away from the bulb. So that's a reason to cook them, right? Stop buying garlic and just use all your scapes. Okay, so that's a good amount. That's probably, eyeballing that, that's half a cup or 3/4 of a cup of garlic scapes. So that's going to be nice and garlicky. And this is Maritime Gardening's away for a couple days with the kids, so I can be as garlicky as I want. Alright, so now I've got everything ready. I got my scapes, I got my greens, and I got my stems. And that's all I'm really going to cook. You could add mushrooms, or there's all kinds of things you could add to this. This is just, I'm using this stuff up. Oh, I'm going to add one thing though. Got some potato. These went in the microwave. This is about a cup of potato. I just cut them up, and if you cut them up and put enough water to cover them and put them in the microwave on the potato setting, they'll cook perfectly. So I'm going to add this, just to add a little bit of starch to the meal, so I got lots of energy to do more gardening this afternoon. That's my lunch today. So let's get cooking. How do we do this? All right, so this is nice and hot. You can tell it's hot. I just put a bit of water in your hand and drop the water in. Woo! That is ready to rock. I got my burner on about somewhere between 6 and 7. I find for my oven that's the right heat for sauteing anything. So I'm going to start with the garlic scapes. And I got a little bit of onion here. Might as well chop that up while I'm at it. I mean, garlic's probably enough from that family, but onion's nice too. Alright, so there's some onion. Throw that in. Oh, a little bit overzealous with the throwing of the onions. I do a lot of cooking with a wok. I just find it's an ideal instrument for cooking veg. This is just a carbon steel wok. It's not stainless steel, it's not Teflon, it's not anything like that. It's just steel, kind of steel that rusts. But if you use your wok all the time and you use a bit of oil every time you use it, you'll find it doesn't really rust. I'm going to turn the heat up now because I got food in it. When you're just heating it up with the oil and stuff like that, I like to leave it around 6 so it doesn't get too hot, doesn't start burning the oil. But once you're cooking, you can turn it right up to high. Get her cranking. I mean, you don't want to waste any time, right? Life's short. Now, so we got our garlic scapes and we got a bit of onion in there. And we just want to get this to a little bit brown. While that's happening, I'm going to add some spices here. I'm going to add some, this is just something I like, 5-spice powder. I actually buy it in whole and I grind it up with coffee grinder. Anyway, so there's a little 5-spice powder in there. And you throw a little bit of these are hot chilies. I buy whole chilies, you know, they're about this long, you know, a couple inches long, 3 inches long, whole dried chilies, and I just throw them into a coffee grinder, maybe 4 tablespoons at a time, and I keep them a little thing like this right next to my oven. I use this stuff all the time. Right? I like a little bit of heat, so about a pinch, maybe 2, depending on the kind of day you're having. That's all you need to get it hot, add the heat you want. And a little bit of salt. I would say, about half a teaspoon, maybe a little more, give or take, depending on your taste. And a lot of people say salt's bad, don't use salt, and blah, 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 blah. That all depends on your health and your biology. I get regular checkups with my doctor, my blood pressure, everything's totally fine. I have an active physical life, and I don't worry about salt. Add a little bit to everything, makes everything taste great. Alright, so I got this seasoned, I got some salt, I got some other things. Now I'm going to add my stems. And we're about 3 minutes into cooking this right now. Alright, I put the stems on. I'm going to add a little bit of water here. I'm going to put a lid on this. And I'm going to let this go for about 3 minutes. Alright, so stay with me. It's about 3 tablespoons of water, maybe somewhere between 2 and 3 tablespoons of water. Throw that in there. Cover it up. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit so it doesn't burn. Give a little shake like that. Okay, and I'm going to wait 3 minutes. So I'm going to turn the camera off and I'll be back in 3 minutes. Alright, the timer's gone. That's 3 minutes. Alright, now I'm going to just toss that around a bit with the... This is a special kind of spatula, if you don't know what it's called, a wok spatula. The curve matches the curve of the pan. It's great. Great for working with the wok. House is starting to smell fantastic. Alright, so that's been cooked a bit. Put that all around. Now I'm going to add the greens. This is a great side dish if you're going to have a nice big meal. I'm making a meal of this like the greens shrink a bit, so I mean, this is why I think cooked greens are better than a salad in a lot of ways. I would never eat this much green with the salad, but when you cook it, it reduces a lot, and you end up eating. I'm going to eat this whole thing for lunch. I'm a fairly big guy, but I mean, it reduces, right, when you do this. Okay, so that's had 3 minutes, and now that I've added the greens, I'll put this lid back on. Lid's not quite the right size, but it's fine. The leaf doesn't look good. It's fine for what I'm doing here. Totally fine. So I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes now. All right, so see you in 2 minutes. All right, there's the timer. Kill that. That's 2 minutes. Doesn't look like much change, but this is actually wilted a bit. So now I'm gonna move this around a bit. Really could use a bigger wok. And this is wilting down. The stuff that's on the bottom has wilted, so I'm just mixing the whole thing together. Not stirring, really sort of turning over. Like that. See how it's shrunk now? It can actually shrink a bit. It's actually shrunk, wilted considerably, right? Just gonna give that 1 more minute like that. All right, there's the timer. That's been 2 minutes. So all I'm going to do now is throw my potatoes on, so I got a little bit of starch calories there. And at this point, I'm going to add some soy sauce. 1, 2, 3. Add to taste. And some sesame seed oil. If you've been trying to cook Asian style, this is no particular style, I'm no expert on this sort of thing, but if you're trying to get that flavor that is in the restaurant that you just can't seem to achieve, it's because you don't have sesame seed oil and you don't have 5-spice powder. So I know I like to do like 3 circles for this much food. And yes, it's oil, and yes, oil has calories, and I don't care because it seems to work fine for me. I'm in reasonably good health. All right, so I've added all that and tossed that around a bit. Now another thing you do at this stage with this style of food is you'd add starch and water, maybe a teaspoon of starch to 2 tablespoons of water to thicken. There's a bit of liquid in the bottom there. You want that to thicken up. I can even pour this off. Let's do it that way. So I got the angle right here. So I got all this moisture in the pan. I'm just going to pour some of it off into a bowl. It's still quite liquid, right? I'm going to put about half a teaspoon of cornstarch into that and work it in. Just like you're making a gravy. Alright, that's all you got to do. When you add that back, it'll thicken up. And why am I doing that? Why am I adding cornstarch to my food? Well, because a lot of the nutrients that are in those vegetables has gone into that water that's gathered in the bottom of the pan. And I want all those nutrients to go into me. I don't want them to stay in the bottom of the pan or the bottom of my bowl or on my plate. I want everything in me. So you add a little tiny bit of starch and it thickens everything up, and then everything that came out of those vegetables doesn't get lost, it all goes into you. And it's also, by the way, it's flavor. You don't want to lose that flavor. It only takes a couple seconds. This cornstarch is magical stuff. So at this stage, if I tried to pour liquid out of this, it really wouldn't work. So it's done now. I'm going to turn that off. Put the lid on. I'm going to let that set a couple seconds. Okay, so let's pour this out into a plate and see what we're working with here. So this is just spinach, bolted spinach, and garlic stems, and a little bit of potato. I don't know if I can eat all of this. This is a lot. I don't know. Maybe. I'm pretty good at eating stuff. I'm sure my mother can attest to that. Anyway. Healthy, tasty, good stuff. This is something you want to add meat to, go right ahead, have at it, whatever you want to do. For today, that's not what I'm doing. Anyway, looks good. Bon appetit. You might ask, what was I doing during the 3 minutes and the 2 minutes and the 1 minute and all that sort of stuff? Well, I was cleaning the kitchen, right? I think kitchen skills are something that's just been lost to a generation, especially my generations and the ones younger than me. It only took, so I had a 3 minute wait time, a 2 minute wait time, and a 1 minute wait time. And while it happened, I cleaned all those bowls, I cleaned all this counter, I cleaned my cutting board, I cleaned my knives, I just cleaned everything up. So all I have to do now is sit down and enjoy this food, and there's nothing left to do. So, it all comes down to those basic kitchen skills. You can eat out of your garden and enjoy that, and you don't have to get overwhelmed at the chores that go along with it. I wasn't filming this. I mean, this video probably took about 20 minutes, but I was by myself, start to finish, to prep the food, to cook the food. Start to finish would take anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes, including cleaning up after myself. If I were to drive to McDonald's and back, I couldn't get. I live slightly out of town, but I would be surprised if any of you could drive to McDonald's and back and order a meal in 12 minutes. And this is a little bit better than McDonald's. Anyway, just a little thought there, something to put in your brain when you're contemplating your next meal. Bolted spinach, perfectly edible, perfectly good. Of course, it's a lot better if you can eat it all before it bolts, but if you are in that situation, cook it. It tastes great. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it gave you some ideas for your next meal, and what to do with your garden, and things to go a little bit sideways. And if you did, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and check out my podcast, MaritimeGardening.com. Until next time, thanks for watching. Have fun in your garden, have fun in your kitchen.